come over here. Gal, come over here. Gal, come over here.
It's not my ting. It's not your ting. It's we ting. We ting radio.
Boom, boom, boom. Yo, it's your ting. It's my ting. It's we ting. We live here in Trinidad and Tobago. Friends, family, lock it, leave it. We ting. Stay tuned. Nah.
Hey, this is Hurricane Himadindial, and you're listening to Weeting Radio. Big up, man.
Greetings, you're listening to DJ 3rd Degree, the maddest DJ on radio. Anyway, Santana, say so.
Hey, this is your girl Rish Morales, aka the Warrior Princess, and you're locked on to Weeting Radio.
Whoa, 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 whoa. Yeah, whoa. Yo, you know it's Mystic representing for Weeting Radio, man. Big up the Trini people and big up Diana, you know. Mystic is a boy representing, bringing the reggae vibe and bringing the little choco vibe as well. Boom! Screw some ball, is a coolie boy. Me never shame, is a coolie boy. Why not the time, is a coolie boy. Yo, Mystic.
Hi, this is Nikki Crosby, and it's Weeting Radio. I mean, hello, it's Weeting, so I have to be in it. Weeting Radio.
Yo, this is the girl Shruti Ramnai, and you are listening to Weeting Radio. Don't feel this thing, don't come on, wine and box your waist. Yes, man.
It's not my ting. It's not your ting. It's we ting. We ting radio.
Yo, I am Nishran M out of Trinidad and Tobago, and you are locked to We Ting Radio. Nothing sweeter than We Ting. Love you.
The way to Degree mash up the dance. They calling him a hooligan, a hooligan, a hooligan. Yo, this is your boy Ricardo Drew. It's true, and right now it's all about DJ 3rd Degree. Keep it locked.
Lock and load. This is Dre Blunt, the Rockford King. Anytime in a foreign, you know me for lock into Weeting Radio. You heard me?
Yo, 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 it's your boy Ricky Jai. You don't know, hit after hit. Barman gave me again, it's on punching. Yeah, yeah, yeah. We Ting Radio. That's what you're listening to. I say so. Come on.
Hola, Dulce. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Whining like you from Africa. Picking up We Ting Radio all the time. Tado.
Yo, it's Santana, and you're locked on to We Ting Radio. Anyway,
come over here.
Oh yeah, We Ting Radio.
Come over here. Gal, come over here.
Special good afternoon to each and every one of you.
Gal, come over here. Gal, come over here.
So here's what, make sure and share out the feed.
Gal, come over here.
We're gonna get started in just a few minutes with our featured business of the week. We're gonna be linking up with the Citizenship Clinic, talking about visas and citizenship here in the US of A.
Give me that good wine.
So if you have your questions, send it out, send it out.
You ain't it all so sweet, girl. Give me that sweet wine. Come put it on me, girl. Girl, you want it rough now. I wanna get inside your midsection. I wanna give the girl an injection. I wanna get inside your midsection. So long, girl. How are you? Yeah. Yeah. Hey. I don't know. Give me the work, with the work, yeah. Give me the work, with the work, yeah. Give me the work, with the work, now. Now. I come for this work. Sign me up. I come for this work. Sign me up. I come for this work. Sign me up. I come for it. Boss lady, I come for this work. Sign me up. I come for this work. Sign me up. I come for this work. I never work it properly. I wanna sign my signature, cross my T's, cause I have all the requirements that you need. My resume flawless, suitable, diverse, reliable. If you're hiring, I just want to go to work. Boss lady, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for it. Boss lady, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. I never work it properly. You say I have a vacancy, I go be #1 employee. I aim to please, guaranteed. I fit and ready. Alright, yeah, well equipped. The structure, at 5 minutes. This economy, I've been looking for work. Boss work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for it. Boss lady, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. Sign me up, I come for this work. I never work it properly. So good up.
So here's what we want everybody to share out the feed. So we're gonna link up with our attorney, Miss Ina. Just a couple minutes. She's ready. Now remember, if you have any questions, you can WhatsApp if you want your questions to be confidential to 754-800-1595. Hey, Janice. Debbie.
We in a happy place, yeah. Hey, this is the land of festival. This is the home of carnival. This is the rhythm that we know. It's the love I have for you. This is the colors that we see. This is you and this is me. This is the betting capital. In the sweetest bacchanal. It's true, yeah. You feel it all over. When soca take over, you feel it too, yeah. When soca take over, watch out soca take over, yeah. We go down right there, go. Find it, where the people jumping up and the rhythm starting up. Oh Lord, right there, go. Find it, where the people laughing up and the place is starting up. Yeah, boy. Ding dong me ding, 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 ding dong me ding. We in a happy place, yeah. Oh, ding dong me ding, and it's true.
So good night going out to Bev Patel. Checking in all the way from the UK. So I'm gonna bring now. To the air, a person that we go a long way back. Even though she's only 21 years old, we go back over 20 years. Always with that beautiful smile. She has done a lot for our community. Some people might know and some people might not know. But I used to run the cricket organization down here. And myself and Ina met through the cricket and mutual friends and things like that we've helped a lot of people in South Florida. And probably with myself and Ina in excess of 20 people, at least 20 people. But Ina and them after 9/11 end up going into a different aspect of helping people obtain their citizenship because a lot of people didn't realize the importance of that. So I'd like to welcome one of my good friends, attorney at law, Ina. Good afternoon, Ina. How you doing there? How you feeling? And how's everything?
Good afternoon, Alan. I am so excited to be here and loving the music.
I know you always do.
Yeah, and you're right. I mean, it has been so long, that so long ago that we met. And you know what the greatest thing is like friends that you've known for a very long time, and you might not see them for, months, or like with this pandemic, it might have been longer than that. Mm-hmm. And then you get back and you're right back at the same place where you started. It's great to have, good old, I don't want to say old, because we're very young, both of us.
You are. I'm old.
Yeah. No, you too. But it's just great to, to just have friends like you. It's great. And, to be able to think back to a bunch of memories, cricket and all of that, but looking forward to everything that, that we're doing now and things in the future. So, yeah.
Now, tell everybody a little about yourself, your background. Like I said, you're an attorney. You're
Sure.
specializing in immigration and visas and stuff like that. But tell everybody your history and your.
Oh,
your
sure. Well, we can start a long, long time ago, which really wasn't, right?
No, we're not.
So I was born in Russia, like in the Soviet Union back then, is what it was called. My family came as refugees to the United States. So from that time, I kind of had it in me. I was young and I was helping my parents make their way in this country, figuring stuff out. Like I remember going. Having to talk to landlords to figure out how to rent an apartment because my parents didn't quite have it together. I think a lot of immigrants have that experience where their kids are helping straighten things out as they acclimate to a new country. So I went through that, and that kind of gave me the desire to help people. It's just natural for me. If you arrive in a new country and you don't know anything, I like to help out. If I know something you don't, I want to share it. Right. So that's how I ended up becoming an immigration attorney. I moved to South Florida in 1996 and started my law office, right? And then my law partners, my husband also, Edward Borth, he got very involved in cricket. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, he's doing a different sports project. He's doing a soccer project now.
Really?
That's coming up. Yeah. I can't. It's his project. I'm not giving out the details, but just I'm throwing it out there that keep an eye out for some, interesting soccer stuff coming up. But anyway, so he and I have been practicing immigration law, and we really like to help people out. The Citizenship Clinic, we founded that because people would, they'd get their green cards. And then for whatever reason, they just stopped right there and they never took that final step of becoming U.S. citizen. And what happened is, for one, any problem, you get arrested, have a problem with the police, or you have to go back to your country and you stay out for too long. All of these things can make you lose your green card. All of a sudden you've lived here for years and years and years, and then suddenly you can't come back. So if you go ahead and get your citizenship and kind of make it through that last hurdle, then you're set. You can leave the U.S. and go retire in any place you want to, but come back at any time. Hopefully you don't have problems with the police, but if you do, and we all know you don't have to be guilty to get stopped by the police, at least immigration is something you don't have to worry about. You can go and hire your criminal defense attorney and go into whatever plea deal works out well. You don't have to worry that, oh my God, not only am I going to go to jail for 6 months or a year or whatever, but I'm also getting deported after that. No. So at least that deportation part, it shouldn't be a worry. So we try to get everybody their citizenship. But in addition to that, we also do all other immigration cases, deportation, work visas, artist visas, investor visas, what have you, family immigration.
Now, in regards to what you had said about legal problems and stuff like that,
sure.
If you get your citizenship, is your citizenship something that can be revoked if you get into a legal situation?
In 99.9% of the cases, it cannot be revoked. You're safe. There's been a few cases, and actually under last president, they started a little committee to try to take away people's citizenship. But that only happens if, say, when you're applying for citizenship, you completely lie about something. Mostly happen in cases where people committed murders, and they didn't mention that on their citizenship application, even though they were asked, have you ever committed a crime for which you were not arrested? They said no, but 6 months before that, they happened to have killed someone, and then police do the investigation, find out, convict the person of murder. And so then immigration goes back, you got your citizenship by fraud. If we had known that you killed this person, we would have never given it to you. So in those cases, they can take it away, but there's limits to that, and it's exceedingly rare. But if you prepare your citizenship application properly, you have a lawyer go through it with you to make sure, these little tricky questions are answered properly, then no. Once you get your citizenship, home base, you're safe.
So, what's the advantage of hiring an attorney to help with the citizenship process?
So the application alone now is, I think, over 20 pages.
Wow.
I I actually don't know exactly how many questions are on it, but there are a lot, and every little question can trip you up. Um, so there are two risks to doing the citizenship case by yourself without an attorney. First, obviously, if you don't qualify, you can get denied, so you've just lost, the filing fee and a bunch of time. But worse, there are people who apply for citizenship who are not eligible, and not only are they not eligible, but they could be deported because they have something in their past. Usually, it's a criminal case. Sometimes it's a case where, let's say, the way you got your green card wasn't quite right, and maybe it wasn't even your mistake. Like we have cases where a mom or dad applies for a person and they mess up on the application, or like immigration, USCIS makes a mistake and mistakenly grants that application for the green card. Years down the road, 10, 15, 20 years down the road, that person applies for citizenship. And immigration now discovers, oh, we're sorry, we made a mistake giving you a green card. So now, instead of giving you citizenship, we're going to deport you.
Oh, no.
Imagine, right?
I'm in shock. So that actually has happened. So when they have the consultation with you and stuff like that, you're able to let them know these flags, or these.
Absolutely.
So when these flags come up, does that put them in a situation, or you tell them, here's what, don't proceed further, and whatnot?
Well, so we come up with a plan, right? I mean, first we sit down, we talk, we go way deep, because the immigration officer at that citizenship interview, they're going to look all the way back to when you first came into the U.S. Maybe you came in on a tourist visa. Maybe you got your green card and flew in from wherever you're from. But they're going to go way back and look. And so that's what I do. I just go way back and go, let's go through your whole history. And I have a list of flags that I check off to make sure that nothing is going to be a problem. And and then if I see that there's a red flag, we figure out how to deal with it. If I say, look, you know what, you're better off just keeping quiet, keeping with your green card and working, try not to travel if you don't really have to. That's one thing. But it may be that we can say, you know what, let's go ahead and proactively apply. But before we apply, we'll set it up so that, let's say it's like a criminal case that you have. You know what? Yeah, they're going to put you into deportation proceedings, removal proceedings because of that criminal case. The citizenship application will trigger it. But let's set up your defense, because you may have a defense. You may have, depending on the case, the criminal case, the situation, you may have family members that rely on you and that will have huge problems if you're deported. And that could be a hardship that an immigration judge would look at and say, look, this tiny little crime way back way, yeah, technically it makes you deportable, but if we kick you out of the country, then your family is going to suffer, especially if you come from a country where. So let's set that up. Let's get it ready to go. And there's going to be apply for citizenship, get sent to removal. It's a risk, yeah, but we talk about it. If you're ready to face that, deal with the removal case, win the removal case, and then go back and get your citizenship. So sometimes that happens.
Now, one of the things that we heard in the beginning of the last regime's presidency and stuff like that was, deporting parents and all of that stuff like that. Is that still a fair factor right now from what you're just saying? Is that, or is it something that you're able to actually defend the hardship if somebody is going to get deported and things like that?
We had... I'm trying not to get political, but I can't, right. Because immigration is political. And then before I jump into that, somebody's asking if we can handle applications anywhere in the U.S. I just want to let people know, yes, absolutely. Immigration law is federal. That means that lawyers don't have to be licensed in a particular state to do immigration law. So we do it anywhere in the U.S. And now with the pandemic, we're actually not seeing people live in our office.
Virtual now?
To keep us safe, but we've gone 100% virtual. So I could get on a Zoom call, a Skype call with you, or we can just talk by phone. I send you everything through email. We have this amazing new system that we've set up. We can get e-signatures. So you and I never have to meet in the same room.
Okay, good.
But we can handle your whole case. And we have clients in other countries in the world. Someone was here from the UK. Shout out to UK. I've had a lot of British clients lately. So you're saying about children. All right. So this last administration just, no better words, completely sucked for immigrants. The whole
Yes.
aim of the administration was to make life difficult for immigrants and get as many people out as possible and keep new people from coming in. So there's an immigration group that counted. They literally put a new rule making life difficult for immigrants pretty much once a day. There were like 360 something rules put in during the last year, all of which just created some sort of problem or another. So the Biden administration is coming in and it's a complete change of atmosphere, complete change of attitude. And they're saying, you know what, let's, instead of calling immigrants aliens, like in the laws, immigrants are called aliens, you have resident alien card.
Right.
Think, that doesn't sound nice. So let's change it all to immigrant, okay, instead of alien. And that's, it may not make a huge difference legally. Like you don't get your green card just because you're called something else, but it makes a huge change in attitude. And then they're working to undo all of the damage the previous administration did. And it's going to take a lot of work to undo it. They put a moratorium for 100 days on deportations. Unfortunately, some people in Texas sued the president and reversed that moratorium. This judge in Texas said, nah, you still can deport people. But the reality of it is that it's a lot safer now. This kind of crazy attitude that we had with border agents going, you know what, we're gonna deport children, separate children from parents, blah, all of that. It's off. Yeah, some people still think that way. Some agents are convinced that what they were doing before was cool. It isn't, but basically it's off. We can relax a little bit now, but it's not like the president's handing out green cards to everyone.
Okay.
We're
now,
not.
what would you say was maybe 3 or 2 or so forth of the top roadblocks that was put in in the previous administration that the current one is going to work on? I know one of the things I wanted to bring up that I know some personal friends of mine in the technical arena and stuff like that. They weren't able with the pandemic, not able to get their H-1B visas and work visas and stuff like that. And they had to go back to India and all these different places and stuff like that when the president put this huge stipulation on that part. But to you, what was the 3 biggest obstacles or headaches to you as an immigration attorney that hopefully the new administration is working on?
Right. Well, I mean, the pandemic is one thing. The pandemic is still on. And so the problem is that consulates are closed because they don't want people going in there and spreading COVID. And that's not so related to the Trump administration or the Biden administration. The consulates are still closed and it's still a problem that we just have to wait out. And there's some ways to get around it and deal with it. But to me, there are 2 big things. For one, if your case is in immigration court, the Trump administration got rid of discretion for judges. In other words, it said, we don't want judges having a lot of power and saying, oh, I'll let this person stay and I won't in their discretion. They really kind of caged them in so that it made it very difficult for immigration judges to fairly decide on a case because they had limits to what they can do. They had quotas, like they had to finish up so many cases per week, per month, per year, or they got in trouble. And hopefully that's being reversed. At least I know that the Biden administration is working on reversing it. Discretion for prosecutors. The ICE attorneys in the past were able to say, look, we'll agree to reopen an old case. Even though the law doesn't allow it, we'll agree to do it together. Ideally, they're going to bring it back. The other thing is public charge rules. So Trump brought in this thing saying, if you're going to be a public charge, in fact, if you're coming to the US, you got to prove you're not going to be a public charge. So you're not going to that you have enough money to support yourself or have an education, we think you're going to get a job right away. And they put in this paperwork requirement with this form that you have to send in things like your credit score, all of your educational documents. By the time you're done filling out this form with any green card application, it's like a 2 or 3 inch stack of paper with just that form, forgetting the rest of the stuff. And this was a huge burden. I mean, it took hours and hours of attorney time. So we're charging for our time. That means you, the immigrant, you're paying more. And, I don't want to have to charge for that, but I have to because it's my time and my work. But it's a burden to you. So I would just rather not do it. And, their immigration officers have, agreed pretty much off the record that it's stupid. But it was just so hopefully that's getting reversed. Biden's basically set up a committee to look into all of these issues and look into these attitudes that the previous administration had and say, are these things useful? Are they helpful to immigrants? Are they helpful to our country? And to look into it and see, how we can change around the procedures to make it easy for people who deserve the immigration benefits, but at the same time, provide security.
Right.
So,
Now, student visas and things like that with the pandemic, those things have been put on hold and whatnot, correct? Is it something that might be allowed soon?
I mean, actually, not entirely on hold. For example, a number of consulates are actually allowing appointments for people who are getting student visas to come to study to the U.S. Like some of them say that's pretty much the only people who can get an appointment because of college starting.
Okay.
You got to get here. They don't want tourists to come in. Some of the work visa people, like the entertainment industry, if all these venues are closed, tell me that you're coming into the country to do a concert with when there's no real concerts. Like this seems to be like, doesn't make sense in the pandemic. So yeah, that makes sense. They're not even going to bother looking at your visa application because they know that you're going to be rescheduled for 2022 or whenever it is. But students have actually been allowed to come in. And there was a little regulation that went in saying, it can't be all online. I believe that's getting rescinded and they backed off. Actually, there was a court decision. They backed off of that. So students are still doing okay.
Now, one of the things you mentioned in regards to artist visas and stuff like that. Now, in regards to artist visas, and we know like some states are slowly opening up and whatnot, but in regards to the immigration part, what is it that you've probably heard in regards to those kind of things? Is that something that's going to start soon, or they're waiting for full countrywide for it to be open, then to start processing or even looking at these entertainment visas?
So the visas are processed, like the petition for the entertainer.
Right.
That's processed at a service center inside the United States. Those centers are open because they've actually been built years ago to have no access to the public. We mail in packages of documents. So there's no pandemic risk to these people. I mean, I think they were taking stuff home or whatever, but I mean, it's not like they're interacting with the public. They're just receiving a package of documents to make a decision. However, then let's say this ban applies to tour the US, then once the service center in the US approves that petition, they got to get an appointment at the US consulate in whatever town. I mean, let's say Kingston, Jamaica, for example. You got to check with that consulate if they're open and if they're processing these visas. And most of the consulates in the Western Hemisphere at the moment, I believe, are closed or partially closed. So some of them you can apply and say, look, we really need this. It's in the national interest. So let's say, I don't know, let's say you're a doctor and you've been asked to come in to do like a lab study or whatever, evaluate something that's really important to the pandemic, to, something like that, that's really important to the United States. Yeah, the consulate will let you come in and get your visa. You got to explain it to them. You got to provide documentation, or there may be ways to get, use an older visa, or that's something that's done on a case-by-case basis. So basically what we're looking at is, depending on your case, depending why you're coming here, is this something that's really important? or is it something that can wait? And we're going to look at which consulate you're going to, which country you're in, because some countries are open, some are not.
Right. So
Yeah,
basically, if
yeah.
the borders are closed, it's not something that's being even thought of right now. They're just focusing on whatever they're focusing on, correct?
It totally depends. There may be a few that can get through. Again, it depends on which country,
Okay.
like which country the consulate's in.
Okay, got you.
Okay.
Now, so like for instance, Trinidad and Tobago, the borders are closed. So really
Yeah.
and truly, you have to contact the consulate in Trinidad and Tobago to find out if these things are moving forward. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. And I believe Port of Spain is closed, and they're
Yes.
not, and they're only taking emergency cases.
Okay.
You know, let's say family members or, you know, that have emergencies, like true emergencies. And unfortunately, you know, unlike some people might think a concert is an emergency, but
For Carnival, we think so.
I
but, you
know, right. I get it, but yeah.
Now, one of the things, I don't know if you're going to have an answer for this one, but those people that are stuck in their respective countries trying to come back, or even stuck over here to go back home, do you have information in regards to that aspect? Yeah,
Sure,
how
totally,
people can be able to get to go back home?
So, I mean, again, it's totally like case specific and totally depends on like what visa, if you're here, what visa do you have? This last summer, I mean, still, I ended up doing a whole lot of visa extensions for yacht crew because all these yachts, you know, the fancy ones with a lot of, you know, like 6 crew members, right? They got grounded because all the ports closed. So the crew who had visas that only allowed them to be here for like 6 months, they were that stay was expiring. So, and they couldn't leave. There are people from South Africa that South Africa closed off all its borders, and it was almost impossible to get back. The UK was closed off for quite a while. So I had people from just here, tourists from the UK who spend the winter here, like elderly people who couldn't get back. So I did a lot of visa extensions for those. So then,
and they were being granted and so
Yeah.
forth. They would.
Yeah.
So they were looking at that. So in regards
Right. Gotta provide the explanation and the documents to justify. Hey, I'm trying to leave, but I can't. You know, we'd look up the country conditions. We'd look up, find out, you know, what the country rules are on returning travel. Check with the airline. A lot of people would book tickets and then like their tickets would get canceled, their flight would get canceled. So we print out the flight cancellation and then close it all together in a package and send it off. And
okay, so
you know,
so if there's some people that's out there that worried about that you know, overstaying and things like that, it's something that can be worked on right now.
Right. And
without
I mean,
any jeopardy.
don't overstay. Feel free to contact me about it. But even if you had a little overstay or something happened because of COVID, they've actually granted like a few. It's not like a complete, it's okay to overstay. It's not, but it's a little bit of a cushion. So if something is a little bit late, there are actually some like a leniency policy that's come in. Like if you can show that it's during a particular time and it's related to COVID, some like requests for evidence are allowed to come in a little bit later. If you want your case reviewed, the deadlines were stretched out a little bit. So there are a few things that have been done to, you know, make life easier, just because this pandemic has made life so much harder for us, especially getting access to documents and, you know.
Okay. Now, one of the other things that's definitely out there that a lot of people is probably do want to know, those who get married and they're sponsoring their spouse or significant other and things like that. Has that process slowed down with COVID, and is it something that they're not looking at and whatnot? Because we knew previously, you know, there was all these kind of rules in regards to, you know, they're deporting people, blah, 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 blah. So you address that. But in regards to those who are sponsoring a spouse or a family member, what's the process in that? How they're looking at those things?
Well, yeah, there have been slowdowns. So it depends. If you're sponsoring a spouse who's in the United States, and let's say you're a U.S. citizen, so in those cases, it doesn't matter if your spouse overstayed. Everything happens here. You file the paperwork, and if it takes 1 year or 2 years to get through the interview, it doesn't matter because you're allowed to be here. You get a work permit, so that those delays don't really affect people. They may be there, but it's not that big a deal. The big deal comes if you're trying to sponsor somebody who's outside the United States. So let's say you're sponsoring a spouse in Guyana. There's a wait. And so there's not only the delay in just processing the case because, the USCIS workers, had to go home and work from home, let's say, for example. Sure, of course, that's going to delay cases, all sorts of things. But also then when that case goes to the consulate says, we don't want to see people. So we're going to reschedule that appointment that we give you until the pandemic is over. So in those cases, the only way to deal with that is to see if there's a particular hardship to the U.S. citizen spouse or to even perhaps to the person abroad or some children that they have, to say, look, we can't wait. We can't wait that long. Can we get this person in here right now? Because I'm home in the U.S. stuck with 3 little kids, and I just I'm working from home and I can't handle it, or there's a medical condition or whatever it was, and then you have to ask for an exception.
Now, is the work permit and stuff something that's automatic? Because as you remember, we had a case of a mutual friend that didn't get the work permit after many, many, many years of waiting, and he was being sponsored by a different thing. But in regards to the spouse part, is it something that will happen automatic? You file the paperwork, then when they file the paperwork, now, this is who's using different kind of counsel, right? Because you do the stuff. We know that. I know that personally.
So nothing's automatic, but yeah, if you file for a work permit, you're supposed to get it. Mm-hmm. If you're pending your application for adjustment. But guess what? Last year we had delays of, about 6 months for the work permit. I had a few cases that took as long as 9 or 10 months. Just randomly, something happened at USCIS and they were just delaying them. I'll blame the Trump administration. Now, supposedly they're speeding it back up to normal norms, but we'll see. Okay. But yeah, when you file it, you will eventually get it. And if you have to bug them or, get your congressperson involved, if there's a huge delay or something like that, you can do that.
Now, one of my Ina success stories, and we've had many, but like what I just had referred to, I had a friend of mine that was playing cricket and stuff with me, and he, this stuff is always confidential, people don't really talk about it. So one of the guys ended up saying, talk to Alan. He always knows somebody that's always something. And when this person had approached me and told me the situation that he was working for this organization and they were putting in his paperwork and stuff like that. He's never met his attorney and things, and it's about a 7-year process. He has his 5 kids and his wife and things. And I said, bro, something's wrong. He didn't have a work permit. He didn't have nothing. So he was here, illegal. That's the terminology. So he was here illegal. And then I said, listen, go and meet Ina. Gave Ina a call. We went. He came in. Boom. Ina looked at it and says, something is definitely wrong here. Transfer the case. And here's what. Between 6 to 9 months, you're going to have your work permit. Within a year, you'll end up getting your green card and stuff like that. And I remember it specifically because it was during when Obama was running for election. I was in line waiting to, we transferred the case, by the way, and stuff like that. And I was in line waiting to go vote for my early voting. And he calls me up crying. He's like, Alan, I don't know what to say. And I'm like, dude, what happened? Are you okay? Is everybody fine? And whatnot. He said, I got my work permit, right? Which was, Ina works magic. And I'm telling you, I can attest that this is what she does. She tells you straightforward. Either yes, it can be done, no, it can't be done, and things like that. She's not taking your money. There's some attorneys out there who just take your money because you're in a situation. But that's not Ina. If you're paying Ina, you're getting your service, and she's always 1,000,000% upfront with you. And like I said, that's the relationship that we've had, and we've helped make a difference in a lot of people's lives over the years that we know each other.
That is so sweet, Alan. Thank you. I remember now. You said the 5 kids. Now I know who it is. Yeah. This guy is a really, really sweet guy, but he's actually really good at his profession. The thing that he does, he's really good at it. But he's not a lawyer. He doesn't do law, and that's good because I don't want my house builder to be a lawyer. I want him to be really good at building my house. I don't want my roof falling down, right? I don't want my doctor to be a lawyer because I want him to be really good at whatever medical procedure I need, right? So we all have our own thing, right?
Right. So you specialize in.
So yeah, exactly. So if I I just I think it wasn't anything that was particularly that difficult. There was just like a little missing step in the process, like a little glitch that had to be unglitched, and we kind of went through. I remember, but and he completely deserved it. And I still hear from his kids even sometimes, once in a while.
Well, this is what, and then another story is we had a friend of ours, mutual family friend and stuff like that, and we were working on the permits, the stuff for them, and the child was about to turn 18. And then they're like, listen, we're going to get him married off. We're going to marry him off. We're going to marry him off because this is not going to happen. It's not going to happen. And when I spoke, Ina's like, listen, we're right there. Don't worry. It's going to happen. And then
I said, it's not 18, it's 21. So you got 4 years.
So then the week before his birthday, boom, everything came through and he didn't have to get married for no reason. But these are the desperation tactics a lot of people use. Now, what do you recommend in regards to people that are thinking on this level? Yes, we know this happens, right? Yeah, you understand, but that's not always. That doesn't have to be your option. Maybe a last resort. But what do you recommend? That's people. This is their mindset. In order for me to be able to stay here, I got to get married at all costs.
Yeah. So a couple of things. Well, first of all, you may have other options, and if you're just getting married to get your green card, that's a bad idea. Okay. So first of all, it's illegal. It's fraud. If your only intent in getting married to someone is to get the papers. I mean, you can marry for money. I have no problem with that. That's not that's not illegal, right? You can marry for sex, whatever it is, but not for your immigration papers. Okay, so that's fraud. So what happens is if immigration figures out you've committed this fraud, and they have some tricks up their sleeves to figure that out. If they do it, you're gonna not only are you getting your case denied, but you're gonna get barred from filing any other case ever in the future. So to give an example, let's say you have a child from a previous marriage who's, I don't know, a teenager, right? And you're like, oh, I gotta get my papers. You arrange, you set it up, whatever. They're going prices, you pay. You get married to, and you go to your interview, and you and your, fraudulent spouse get asked some questions, and don't know what the other side is like. You have different stories about where you went on your first date. You don't know how many bedrooms are in the house, and the officer says, I'm denying your case. That's it. Clearly, there's no reason to. Or maybe the person, the citizen spouse, who married for immigration fraud, gets cold feet, and they get really scared, and the immigration officer kind of sees, I'm going to give you this talk. Even the U.S. citizen who does immigration fraud, they could be subject to imprisonment and a fine for committing fraud on the system. And so the person gets cold feet and say, and then the officer offers them, say, what, if you confess right now, sign this little paper here, I'm going to let you walk out of here. No prison, no harm, no anything. You're off the hook as long as you admit to it right now. So of course they sign, they get scared. So the immigrant with their teenage kids and whatever is stuck. Case gets denied. Maybe they never make it to deportation. And later on, their U.S. citizen child turns 21 and can now petition for them. Guess what happens? That petition, that child who turns 21 petitions for their, let's say, mom, who got denied previously because she entered into that fraudulent marriage. The child's petition is going to be denied because of the mom's, fraudulent behavior in the past. That's an actual law on the books. So basically, if you do this, that's it. It's going to haunt you forever. And and it's not enough to even file your paperwork. If immigration catches you just conspiring, you're sitting at a restaurant talking to someone and say, what, let's go get married just for the papers. And an officer overhears you. You don't even have to get married. If there's proof that you just intended to do this, that can get you barred from future immigration benefits. So that's a really, really bad idea to even try. Just don't even think about it. But you know what? Sometimes, though, we have cases where people get married. There's, they fall in love, they get married. Maybe the spouse petitions for them, and they go to an interview. But by the time they get to that interview, that marriage is like fallen apart.
Right.
A lot of times,
some friends.
yeah, and a lot of times, let's say the spouse, it could be the husband, could be the wife. It's kind of gender, equal in both genders these days. I find it's really abusive and controlling. It's like, you know what? I'm not going to go to your immigration interview if you don't, I don't know, do the dishes. If you don't bring me your entire paycheck. No, you're not going out tonight. No way, not with your friends. That paycheck is coming home with me, or that interview on Monday, I'm not going. And it gets worse from there. And I'm sure you've heard this.
Yes, I have.
Right? Like all these versions of the same thing. And, sometimes there's physical abuse involved. Sometimes it's just really controlling. Because a lot of times people feel like, hey, I've got my citizenship and I am better than my immigrant spouse, and they need something from me. So, let's make it a trade-off. Let me get it from them, which isn't nice. I mean, then it can get really, really mean. So a lot of times that spouse will back out and say, to tell the officer it was all fake, as a way of getting back at their immigrant wife or husband. So in those cases, they're a little bit hard, but if there's abuse, you can petition for yourself. Or you can just get out of that. And it doesn't have to be physical. A lot of times, even a threat, it could be emotional. It can be, it just has to be something that's worse than a regular, people get divorced because they don't get along. It has to be worse than just not getting along. It has to be controlled by the U.S. citizen, beyond, right? It has to be something that
but you have to prove it then, right? You have to show or have ways of
right. And there's ways to do it. Yeah, we send our clients to get a psychological evaluation, to get counseling, and it's great. It helps you if you get counseling, but also that helps to prove. We talk about it. We can help them write up a really long declaration explanation of everything that happened. So if there's that abuse, that's not a fake marriage.
It's still hope.
Yeah, and you can apply by yourself. So you have to kind of be careful when you look at these cases. And a lot of times people aren't willing to come forward. They're like, oh, no, they don't want to talk about it. A lot of times I find men, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say, oh, my wife abused me. Because, the macho. But it happens. It happens when you got a power differential. When one person has more power than the other, it's easy for that to turn into abuse. But, immigration's there's a silver lining to every cloud. Oh, you were abused by your spouse, terrible. Well, actually, that's good for your immigration case. I feel terrible saying that, but
it's something that gives them a chance.
Right, exactly.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned, which we knew this, in regards to my case with my parents and stuff like that, back in 1975 when I was born, they were able to have me, as the baby being born over here, sponsor them at that time. That's how my parents ended up getting their stuff way back then. So I have no problem talking about my age, but like I said, you're 21. So, is that something that's still possible, that having children born in the U.S., that they're able to get their petition at the birth and stuff like that? Or, as you mentioned, I think you said 21 and stuff like that.
Right.
What's the guidelines in that area?
So the U.S. citizen child has to be 21 to sponsor the parent.
Okay, has to be 21. Okay.
But there's a situation, if let's say the parents are in removal proceedings, they're in deportation, they're in immigration court, and they've been here a really long time, and you need 10 years at least. There's little tricks, but if they've been here for 10 years and they have little kids that were born here, but these kids have maybe health issues or basically if you could prove a hardship to the small children,
right?
Or your spouse is not going to be able to take care of the small children by herself if the husband's deported or something like that. So small, younger U.S. citizen children sometimes can benefit in an immigration case if you can show hardship to them. And it happens usually in deportation proceedings. There's certain waivers kind of hard to use kids in waivers, but sometimes we do. But a lot of times in immigration court, hardship to children is something that is taken into consideration.
Now, what about siblings? Like, you have let's say from in Trinidad, you have your sister and them come up here, they become citizens and stuff like that. They want to sponsor their brothers and them coming over. We know the process used to be a lengthy process before, and that's usually...
Still is.
Okay.
Long wait. But you know what? If you're from Trinidad, it's like maybe 12 years.
12-year process.
Right now, there's a quota. It depends, because right now there's a quota system. Actually, Biden has submitted a bill to get rid of some of these backlogs and some of the ways the quota system is done. But right now, some countries can only have a certain percentage of immigrants. So there's countries where typically a lot of people immigrate from, like Mexico, India, China. So family immigration really high from Mexico. So a sister or brother of a U.S. citizen who's in Mexico has to wait like 20, 21 years, something like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I didn't even know that was the kind of years in regards to this.
Yeah.
So from the Caribbean and stuff like that, you're looking in double digits basically for siblings to sponsor.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, and thank you very much. The time has just flown by and stuff like that. And, a lot of information and stuff. I have people that's been messaging me on the download that this is very informative stuff. Like I said, This is something that's very private and whatnot. But, to find Ina, the page is the Citizenship Clinic on Facebook and stuff like that. And I have the number listed down there. The number to call the office is 954-522-4115. Is there any other methods to get in contact with you and things like that?
I love email. So if you go to the website, that's citizenshipclinic.com. And I think you can also find it on the Facebook page. Well, you can send me a Facebook message, but if you go to citizenshipclinic.com and there's a little form there you can fill out to send an email, or you can just send it to info@citizenshipclinic.com, or you can send it to lawyer@citizenshipclinic.com. Either one of those are great.
Okay, so before we get ready to roll out, what is one pearl of wisdom that you want to give to the people out there that's probably scared in regards to reaching out to an attorney in regards to this and want to stay on the down low and stuff like that? Like we said, last administration put fear in a lot of people and stuff like, police, when they stop you, where's your stuff and this, that, and the next thing and so forth. It was crazy past 4 or 5 years now.
Sure.
What's one of your pearls of wisdom?
Talk to a lawyer. Don't make a decision before having a consultation. If you want to have 1, 2, or 3 consultations, go for it. Get the information, get informed first. Lawyers have a rule. We have to keep your information confidential. Even if you admit to me that you've committed a crime, I can't tell anybody. I'm going to lose my license. So I'm not saying call me and keep confessing to me. It's not really right. But the point being is, I'm not going to call immigration on you. I'm going to listen to you and figure out what it is to be done, what needs to be done in your case. And if I can't do anything, and if you have no hope, you know what, I'm going to tell you. So don't waste your money. But there might be something. So first, talk to a lawyer first. Get your full information before you make any immigration decisions. And make sure that lawyer is a licensed lawyer. Look us up with the Florida bar. If you're in Florida, check that the lawyer has their license.
Now, information changes every day. So everybody in their family has somebody that thinks they're a lawyer that knows more than anyone and stuff like that, right? But the thing is, reach out to Ina, reach out to somebody who's knowledgeable in this area, because the biggest problem is misinformation. 100 million of the time is misinformation. You understand? So reach out to Ina, reach out to someone that will be able to direct you and put that fear at ease. And like we said, we have a new administration in place now, so fear is not the thing anymore. You understand? So let's utilize what we have, right?
And yeah, exactly. And talk to a real lawyer, because that guy who does your taxes and and sells fried chicken and does immigration forms. Not licensed.
So
but
the roti guy is okay though. The guy selling roti is fine, but not
for
this.
roti. Yeah, just for roti is great. For immigration, not so much. Yeah.
Ina, thank you very much, darling. All the best to you, Ed and Bren. Thank you again, as always. Like I said, the relationship we have go way, way, way back. We've made a lot of difference in a lot of people's lives, and I'm hoping that having you on here is going to be able to continue that trend, that your positivity in regards to so many people that live in fear. And I thank you for what you do for our culture, our community. It's not about the fact that you're from the other side of the world and whatnot. You're very grounded into our West Indian community. You always do so much. So thank you, dear.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So you got it right there. I'm going to let Ina go. Thank you again, darling, so much. I'm going to touch base with you. So you guys got her number right there. 954-522-4115. Leave a message. I'm getting ready to roll out. Ina, love to you and the family there. Take care.
Take care.
So I get ready to roll out, right? I gotta pick up my attorney from work. So you guys heard it, right? Make the phone call. I'm leaving the number up there, 954-522-4115. You can send me a message and I'll get it over to her. Reshma! Good luck tomorrow, darling. Tomorrow's the taping. For my fluffy girl. Or the girl who loved the fluffy man like myself. Raish, I'm going to call you back, you know. So like we said, there is hope out there. Get the correct information now. Now I'm on tomorrow night at 7. We're bringing to the air Miss Sonia Singh, who did the reply to Bacardi Singh's big song. Hey, Neela, is you, girl? You need to watch over this video, Neela. Larger, my boy. Up. My pilot in training. Large of the family. How Cat Eyes doing? Now hear what? Tomorrow we have Sonia Singh. And I'm bringing the young girl. Miss Caitlin Sultan is releasing her track tomorrow right here. Tomorrow night. Let me see if we get Reshma to come through tomorrow night after her performance, after her filming. So I'm getting ready to go. You all have a wonderful night. Hey! Jefferson, Surab, and Angry Birds, Bobby. So I got. Doom, doom, doom.